All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. We're very excited to kick off what will be our first of many webinars for our EnVision Center partners. We call them roundups. This roundup is co-hosted by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and also the U.S. Census Bureau. My name is Ben DiMarzo. I'm the Assistant Deputy Secretary here at HUD for our Office of Field Policy and Management, which oversees the EnVision Center demonstration. Since Secretary Carson launched the EnVision Center designation program, we've designated 45 EnVision Centers in 25 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. So very excited to have been working with all of you over the past 3 years to build and grow this demonstration to such a wonderful success. As Secretary Carson has highlighted, the goal of the EnVision Center demonstration is to work with all our federal partners. So today you'll hear from the Census Bureau. We're partnering with many federal partners to help people solve the challenges of poverty, to help them achieve self-sufficiency, and help them grow and improve and achieve the American dream, which is really our goal here at HUD. So Secretary Carson, myself, several of our other assistant secretaries have all traveled around to visit many of your sites, community centers run by housing authorities, cities, nonprofit organizations, places where everybody works together just to help people. And at HUD, that's certainly our goal every single day, help people improve their lives. So today, the first and kickoff inaugural roundup meeting that we're having through this webinar series is with the U.S. Census Bureau. As all of you know, every 10 years we conduct a census. The goal of the census is to count and make sure that everybody is counted. And part of that is hiring people and staffing up for jobs so that people can go door to door, interact with the American people, ask them questions. So this is an extremely important census, very important to HUD, but important to all federal agencies so that we can get an accurate count, so that we can provide the right services to the right people. So with that, I'm going to throw it to Ramel, who's going to introduce our presenters from the Census Bureau. We're going to take you through some of the opportunities that the census can offer to EnVision Centers, to all of your sites, which are great job opportunities this year.
Right. Thank you so much, Ben. Hello, everyone. This is Ramel Calderwood, also with HUD, working on the EnVision Centers demonstration. I have the pleasure to introduce our presenters from the U.S. Census Bureau. Our first presenter will be Claire Ross, who is with the National Partnership Program, and Jay Occhiogrosso with the Training and Recruiting Field Division. Claire and Jay, please take it away.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time, and thank you, Ramel, for having us. My name is Claire Ross, and I'm an account manager in our National Partnership Program. So I'm going to start with a Census 101, and just a general overview of what you need to know. The 2020 census, we are right around the corner from it. We're very excited. Things are busy over here. So we have 3 top key messaging around the census, and the messaging is that the census is important, it's safe, and it's easy. The 2020 census counts every person living in the United States and 5 U.S. territories, only once, and in the right place. And we have that messaging to make sure that people are not overcounted. The U.S. Census is safe, so we are bound by law to protect the answers that we receive, and we have very strict protocols in place around keeping the data confidential. And every employee, including myself, we take an oath to make sure that we protect this information. And the census is easy. This is the first time where you can do the census via the internet, and there's also a phone option, and you can also continue to do it by mail. The 2020 census will shape America for the next 10 years. Sorry, I think there's a little bit of a glitch, but it looks like it's rebooting. There we go. The U.S. Constitution calls and requires the census to happen every 10 years. And beyond the fact that the census determines representation in Congress, it is also the basis of how we allocate federal funding. We estimate that there's more than $675 billion allocated a year that's based on the census. And many of the services include services for education, housing, transportation, and healthcare. So my main focus in the partnership program is looking at the undercount of young children. So something like the census is incredibly, incredibly important for all audiences, but also we look at children, especially children between 0 and 5. If you think about the census, if it's done every 10 years, if a child is, let's say, 2 years old, the next time they're counted is when they're 12. So those 10 years have is a huge period of time, and we really rely on it to be able to help build a strong foundation, especially from a funding standpoint. We want our communities to be strong. We want them to be healthy, and so much of that is based on having an accurate count in the 2020 census. Why participation matters. These are just a couple of the many programs the federal programs that are informed by census data. As I mentioned, a couple of these are specific to children, so SNAP, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, State Children's Health Insurance Program. We do a lot of work with partners such as the American Academy of Pediatrics and the larger pediatric community. And part of the reason why they are very, very supportive of an accurate census is the fact that they work and see children and parents every day, and they understand the value of something like census. They understand that young children, they need those programs so that they can be healthy and that they can have, their needs taken care of. School breakfast program, the National School Lunch Program, Urban Indian Health Services. And this is one these are probably 10 of numerous federal programs that are informed by census data. This just provides kind of a short snapshot of some of those programs. This is an overall timeline of census and the operations. We have some really great resources online additionally that walk through some of the operations that were beginning back in 2018. This specific timeline looks at January 2020 and then goes till March 31st, 2021. The document that you can see here is also online. It's a really great resource to share with partners as they're planning their communications plan or their communications strategy for the next couple months. So as you can see, January 2020, I'll be very high level, we began counting the population in remote Alaska. So we had the Director Dillingham, took sick bay and did the first enumeration in Alaska. So even though Census Day is not until April 1 and people will start receiving invitations to respond to the census in next week actually, March 12th, they still had some earlier operations, specifically the one that happened in Alaska. As I said, March 12th, next week is a really big week for us. The ISR tool, which is the Internet Self-Response Tool, it goes live. And that's when individuals will receive invitations in the mail to respond between March 12th and March 20th. So you might receive an invitation, but let's say your neighbor doesn't or someone else in your community doesn't, and that's because it's going to be staged in between that time. April 1st, 2020, that is what we've recognized as Census Day for the larger country. And unlike voting, this is not just the only day that you can complete the census. You can complete it when the ISR tool goes live and when you receive the invitation to respond, but we recognize April 1 as just kind of a benchmark date as this is, the official Census Day. Another reason, another thing to keep in mind with the April 1st timeline is that for our residence criteria rules, that's really helpful as a benchmark when you're determining where and how someone should be counted. So I'm just going to use young children again as an example, but if, let's say, you are temporarily watching a young child, let's say they are in foster care and you are a temporary foster parent, if that child is with you on April 1 and they spend the night and they sleep at the house on April 1, and you're in doubt as to, this child is not usually here, but they are here, during this time period. You should use April 1 as a benchmark, and that child should be counted where they are asleep on April 1st. The same rule applies for as we're beginning our group quarters operation and as we're looking at service-based enumeration. It's just a helpful date to keep in mind. When you're in doubt, use April 1 as a helpful residence criteria rule. In April 2020, census takers began visiting college students who live on campus. We also look at senior citizen homes and other large groups of people. So that's also the group quarters operation as well. May 2020 is when what we call is kind of the NERFU process begins, and that's when census takers begin visiting homes. That's when folks are going to be coming and knocking on your door, making sure that everyone has responded to the 2020 census. Then December is when we deliver the apportionment counts to the President and Congress. And then March 31st is when the redistricting counts are released also. So how the 2020 census will invite everyone to respond. This is a helpful tool just looking at how we count everyone once, only once, and in the right place. So we establish where to count. Following that, we motivate people to respond. And the motivation period is, working with partners. It's working with trusted voices to make sure they have the resources they need to be able to talk about the census, why the census is important. Of course, we don't want people to, next weekend, next couple of weeks, get the questionnaire and say, what is this? I've never seen this, and I had no idea that this was a census year. We want people to be aware. We want them to have seen, the ads. We want them to have seen PSAs from partners. We want them to be in the know about this so that they feel comfortable. Self-response, that is the phase that we're entering starting next week when folks can self-respond. And we have lots of organizations that are pushing self-response, and you'll hear that from partners that say, we encourage you to self-respond. Then there's also the group quarters operation. And that's what I mentioned, where we look at, for example, correctional facilities, college campuses, and many others, and make sure that we're coordinating with the right people to make sure that all of those people are counted. Then there's the non-response follow-up phase, which I mentioned, which is when you'll have enumerators and people going around and knocking on doors to make sure that you complete the census. And then the last phase is the tabulate data and release census results. How the 2020 census will invite everyone to respond. I think this document, which is also a outreach material one-pager, is incredibly helpful for the stage that we're in right now as we're preparing for the next week, basically, in March 12th. So 95% of households will receive their census invitation in the mail. And so that invitation is sent to you, and it's inviting you to respond to the census. Almost 5% of households will receive their census invitation when a census taker drops it off. And this might happen in areas where many households do not receive mail at their home's physical location, if they have P.O. boxes, or if they live in areas that have recently been impacted by natural disasters. And then fewer than 1% of households will be counted in person by a census taker instead of being invited to respond on their own. And this is what you can think of with the example that I gave of remote Alaska, and where the first count happened in Toksook Bay. So think about that as kind of as an example of the fewer than 1%. Cybersecurity, your data is safe and secure. We live in an age that is very tech savvy, and we want communities to know that we are taking every precaution to make sure that their data is safe and it's secure and it's protected. We understand that people are nervous, and given that this is the first digital census, we want our partners to know and really highlight that we're taking this very seriously. From the moment that respondents submit their answers, their data is encrypted. And as I mentioned, every person at the Census Bureau, even contractors, federal employees, they take a lifetime oath to keep all personal data safe and secure. So even if you're no longer working at the Census Bureau, that lifetime oath still applies, and that's something that we take very, very seriously. We do monthly, yearly trainings to make sure that we are on top of it and that we're understanding, all of the recent threats and such, and knowing, how to handle situations. Right now, we're partnering with government and industry experts that do cybersecurity on a daily basis, and they've been incredibly helpful and insightful in providing us with the newest information around data security. And these are partners of ours, and these are folks that are just giving us their expertise and lending us their voice and helping us really keep and be in the loop around some of the newer trends related to cybersecurity. And as we said, the Census Bureau will continue to identify, protect, and detect any sort of cyber threats. And this is something that we will be doing kind of in live time. When and if there are any, let's say via Twitter, someone puts out something saying, saying something that's incorrect. We will be monitoring all of those social media platforms so that people can see that we're really on top of it, but also so that we can really, target areas that we think are getting misinformation or where folks are getting a bit more nervous around cybersecurity. So we're taking a lot of precautions. So data is confidential. As I said, the federal law protects your census responses. And we use your answers to produce statistics, but nothing is, is used to personally identify you. And as I said, by law, we cannot share your information with immigration enforcement agencies, law enforcement agencies, as well as this information cannot be used to determine your eligibility for government benefits. All of those are incredibly key. I think the last one, when we look at communities, many communities that are hard to count, I'm bringing it back to children, I apologize, but that's my usual lens on things. But a lot of people, for example, might get nervous about receiving their benefits, and especially WIC and SNAP. There might be concerns of what happens if this government agency, gets my census questionnaire and my benefits are going to be jeopardized. As we say, we never share this information with another government agency. And even beyond government agencies, we never share this information. A lot of times we've seen that people are missed, especially children. They're missed if, let's say, you live in an apartment building that only allows for 4 people. That's what your lease permits. And let's say you are temporarily staying with your sister, and your sister has 3 kids, but then you also have 3 kids. So according to your lease, that's not allowed. But we ask everyone for the most accurate responses, and that information can never be shared with a leasing agency because we understand there are concerns and fears that if you put the actual number of individuals living in your household, could you be evicted? And this information is never ever shared. I think another important part to stress is that we never ask for your full Social Security number. We never ask for money or donations. We never ask for anything related to politics or anything on behalf of a political party. And we also are never asking for bank or credit card account numbers or information. And we do really want people to feel empowered to flag these things if they are ever asked that. Because we have a huge anti-scam and anti-fraud campaign, and we want people to feel empowered to know their rights when it comes to filling out the census. And that leads me to this point about avoiding fraud and scams. So the Census Bureau will never send unsolicited emails to request your participation in the 2020 census. And as I said in the slide before, we'll never ask for your full Social Security number, bank account, money, donations. And so we want people to feel empowered to be able to report something. If something feels uncomfortable to them, if they have someone come to their house that is asking for, either the full Social Security number or a bank account or credit card, or they say that they're coming on behalf of a political party, we really want to know that. And that's incredibly helpful as we're targeting and doing everything we can in live time to be able to combat these issues. And so we have a hotline that you can call, and we also ask people to, when you're in doubt, ask to see their ID, and the ID should have their photograph, it should have a U.S. Department of Commerce watermark, and it should have an expiration date. And as I said, if you're ever in doubt about someone's identity, or if you feel that something was done incorrectly, if you were asked questions that you were not anticipating or that felt very invasive, we ask that you call this number, this 800 number, and we also ask that you share that number, with your community so they know that they have opportunities to be able to get clarification. How you can help protect the count in 2020. We also have a rumors at census.gov email address that's incredibly helpful, and as I said, this helps us as we're constantly trying to, be on top of things. And so the more we know about what's happening in the community, the better that we can get at targeting this and making sure that it stops. So if there's rumors, if there's stuff going around your community about, an ICE worker or ICE is coming because you filled out the census, all of those things we want to know about. So we really ask that you share the rumors at census.gov email address so that we can be on top of it and really work to combat that. If you see any suspicious information on your social media channels or other platforms, please flag them for us. We also have the Census Bureau customer service hotline if there are things that you want to report, things that were suspicious or didn't sit well with you. And then we also have our verified social media accounts, and we encourage you to reach out to us through those modes as well. So partnerships, how you can get involved. So one of the things, and I know I've referenced this a couple times, we have lots of materials on our 2020 census.gov website, and there are also materials that are in English materials really cover a bit of everything. So it covers things related to, just operationally. How are you going to receive an invitation in the mail? How is the census protecting data? When should we anticipate information? So we have a lot of resources, and we encourage partners to share it. If you're a partner that does a lot with individuals experiencing homelessness, we have a fantastic one-pager on, how we count individuals experiencing homelessness and some of the service-based enumeration that will happen in the next couple weeks. So we encourage you to visit our website. These are also these are downloadable, so you can either print them, put them in your office locations, as well as linking them. They're great to be able to link to a newsletter or a blog post. So we have a ton of stuff, and we encourage you to review them, to share them, and to visit our website with that. And then I also want to bring up the statistics in schools. We're actually in Stats in Schools Week right now, or what we call is SIS Week. And SIS is a program that is specifically looking at how you can bring census into the classroom. And what was the reason why Statistics in Schools came about was we realized that children, especially children that are in school, so children that are in middle school and younger and in high school, they are key messengers. So when they come home and they bring a pamphlet or they bring something back, that's them educating their parents and letting their parents know, what they've learned. So Statistics in Schools created some really fantastic content, from coloring pages and videos, activities, learning exercises that can be done in the classroom. And the goal is to bring them home so that parents can see it and they can understand and see the value of the census. I think it's also a really great program because it begins to educate kids at a young age about something like the census, about the civic engagement piece, the social justice piece, so that they're thinking about it and it's something that they are aware that they're part of, and the importance that they count. Even though they might not be completing the census, their parents, their caregivers are completing it, and we want them to know that they count and their voices matter. And these materials are all online, and they're also available in English and Spanish. We also encourage you to connect with your local Complete Count committee. And this is a great form of partnership. There are hundreds of Complete Count committees across the country, probably thousands actually, Complete Count committees, and they're really fantastic. They have a great local component to them, and they're doing amazing work in our communities. I work with one Complete Count committee called the Count All Kids Committee, which is a coalition of organizations that are all focused on improving the count of young children between 0 and 5. But there's thousands of other Complete Count committees that have, they might have singular focuses in their communities. They might be, very broadly focused on certain issues, but it's a really great way to get connected in your community and also see the work that's being done at a local level. If you go to the census.gov 2020 Complete Count website, you can also see where there are Complete Count committees. That's another thing, is that there's so much work being done already. We encourage you to look and see, what other Complete Count committees there are in your community versus, starting from scratch and reinventing the wheel. Encourage people to apply for a job with the Census Bureau, and Jay will talk about that a little bit later, but we're hiring an estimated 500,000 people from local communities. And part of the reason why we, look at local communities is because from the trust and trusted voice element, we know that, with concerns around data and data security and confidentiality, we want people to be hired within the community. There's nothing better than, having your neighbor, having your pharmacist or your local pediatrician knock on your door, seeing a familiar face, talk to you about something like the census and why the census is so important. There are full-time and flexible part-time positions, and there's a range of these positions from census takers to recruiting assistants and clerks. And I'm going to hand it over to Jay. Before I do that, though, I just do want to remind folks that there is a Q&A box, so feel free to add in any questions that you have, and we'll answer them at the end of the program. But thank you for your time, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much, Claire. My name is Jay Occhio-Grosso. I work in the field division of the Census Bureau, so I'm going to talk to you about some of the opportunities that we have both in the short term when we're hiring tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of employees, and then longer term after the census leaves and we move into a different part of the decade, we still have some positions for some of what we call our current programs. So okay, so the census is hiring. The census field operations and the NPC, National Processing Center, are both ramping up hiring efforts to support this 2020 decennial census. So this presentation will be split into two different categories. One is for the field operations, and you're probably most familiar with field operations just as being a member of the public with the census, or the kind of the enduring image of somebody knocking on a door, completing a census questionnaire with members of the community. And we hire hundreds of thousands of these people to go into their neighborhoods and help to enumerate their neighbors. So the field operation team develops partnerships with local community organizations and to strategically reduce enumeration barriers in support of the census. And then we'll also be collecting census data from every local community across the country. The second element of our recruitment is for our National Processing Center, and this is located in two geographic areas. One is in Jeffersonville, Indiana, which is just across the river from Louisville, Kentucky, and the others are in Arizona, one in Phoenix and one in Tucson. We'll talk more about each in a moment. So the field operations is hiring nationwide, and the NPC is hiring in Indiana and Arizona. Both paths are vital to the success. So at the National Processing Center, the work is on-site in either Indiana or Phoenix, and these are a variety of different positions: office-based clerks, office-based leaders, supervisors, managers. You know, we obviously need to have an IT and HR department, maintenance workers, forklift operators, etc. These jobs are all full-time. These are both full and part-time schedules. Benefits are available, and these are longer-term through the fall of 2020. We are getting a little bit closer into 2020, so you know these jobs, the long-term does get shorter, so to speak. And the hourly wage varies by position and locality. All of these jobs are found. All the opportunities are found on usajobs.gov, which is the standard clearinghouse for all federal positions. On the right side of this slide, you'll see for field operations, we have a little bit of a different process since we are hiring so many people through this process. So these are for enumerators. These are, like I said earlier, these are the positions you're probably most familiar with, people knocking on doors and enumerating their neighbors. We also have positions in the office, and we have positions supervising those folks who are in the field knocking on doors. And we have recruiting assistants. These are folks who publicize and promote our jobs. These jobs are flexible part-time schedules. Some are full-time, but generally that's not the rule. These people are working with the public, and the majority of our positions are through the summer of 2020. And hourly wage here varies by position and locality. I will say we do offer some very attractive wages in the DC area. Here are about $25 an hour for your standard enumerators who knock on doors and collect data. These positions all are promoted, and the application process is on our website, 2020census.gov/jobs. So you can't find these positions on USA Jobs. Next slide here, we'll talk a little bit more about the National Processing Center. So National Processing Center, although it is much, much larger for the 2020 census, there are also positions here that are available decade-long, permanent positions in our National Processing Center. So we're always recruiting for different positions in this specific area. So this has been in business since 1958, and it's our data processing facility featuring the latest in telecommunications and computer processing to support the nation's economic and demographic indicators. At the moment, we are hiring hundreds of clerks, lead clerks, supervisors, and managers to fill these temporary positions. But like I said, all ongoing positions are also listed on usajobs.gov. And if you do a keyword search of NPC, typically that isolates all of our positions if you just do that keyword search. Our nationwide field opportunities, we need, and we have already achieved over 2 million applications for an estimated 500,000 positions. The majority of these positions are field workers who visit homes and facilities in the local area. Additionally, office support is needed to staff our 248 temporary area census offices that are located around the country. These jobs are all flexible hours and flexible days where you're open 7 days a week and knock on doors 7 days a week for office and field workers. And field work is going to be assigned based on the availability and the geographic location of the worker. So these positions, like I said, these are the positions that are kind of synonymous with the census. And one thing to note here is that we are making a huge number of job offers over the next 2 weeks. So as far as sharing the information, time is kind of the essence here. But the message is nobody who's hearing this is too late to apply. So if you have communities or whatnot that are interested in these positions or might be interested in these positions, getting this word out would be great right away. Job qualifications. Applicants must have an email account. You do have to set up an account in order to apply online. Job information and flyers and all the information about the positions are available online when you visit our website. Local census recruiting staff can provide on-site support and conduct in-person recruiting sessions, but typically we try to just steer everybody to the internet, since that is also kind of just the way business is done at this point. Additional qualifications, if people want to see if they are a viable candidate, they can visit that link on this slide to get more information. But it's a fairly low bar to cross. You need to be 18 years old. If you're male, you need to be registered for a selective service. For most part, you need to be a U.S. citizen, although some exclusions apply on that. Some additional information, 2020 census workers get locality pay rates, so that our pay does vary, so we're competitive around the country. We do pay for training. We do reimburse mileage if you're a member of the field staff. And once you're selected, you need to complete a background check. You need to be fingerprinted before you can take one of our jobs. Like we said here, time's of the essence. Selections are currently in progress. Our main push starts next week as far as calling and making job offers. And again, jobs end in July for the most part, and our link is available at the bottom of this slide as well. So wrap up here. For field operations, you're going to follow the link on the left. For any NPC opportunities, usajobs.gov, keyword search NPC. Any questions about the field operation jobs, you can call the number there, 1-855-JOB-2020. Press 1 for technical help if you're in the middle of your application and you're stuck, or press 3 to get more information from your local area census office. And obviously the relay service there for anybody who needs it. So those are the huge number of temporary positions we have. I want to talk to you a moment here about our ongoing positions. So outside the census, a lot of people don't realize we collect a lot of data about, excuse me. Sorry about that, guys. Had an unexpected visitor. So I want to talk about our current surveys here. So we do a lot of data collection outside the decennial census. You're probably familiar with the most common is the unemployment rate. So the unemployment rate, it comes from two different sources, but one is called the household-based unemployment rate, and that comes from what's called our current population survey. The American Community Survey is another large field effort that we do that creates all kinds of data for understanding what is going on in the nation. Consumer Price Index, you might be familiar with that measure that comes from our Consumer Expenditure Survey. So we have to collect a lot of data from households throughout the decade. We're out there every single day of every single year collecting this data, and we have a lot of positions available. So, Claire, you're getting a weird message on your screen. Won't let me advance. It's like not moving because of that. Sorry guys, having a tiny bit of technical. It won't let us advance the slide. Oh, there it is. Somehow it advanced. I don't know if somebody advanced it for us or. So in order to in order to collect this data, we have two different classes of employees. We have field supervisors and field representatives. The field representatives are the basic interviewers who are trained to collect information about a specific survey. Some of these surveys are quite complicated, so there's a lot of training involved in order to answer respondent questions, convince respondents who might be hesitant to participate, etc. These are grade level 4 and 5 positions, and like I said, they are located all over the country because we do this data collection all over the country. These people interview respondents, collect survey data for current ongoing surveys. Also, we have one-time surveys, special censuses that come up every once in a while. Their supervisors are called field supervisors. They're grade 6s and 7s, and they supervise a team of between 6 and 15 field representatives, and they are responsible for their team's data collection efforts in an assigned geography. So these are positions that we are always recruiting for. They're always available on usajobs.gov. You can do a search for census field representative, and that will bring up any of those positions. Also, we advertise this on our census.gov website. So these are positions we're always interested in filling. They can be a little bit challenging to fill because they are permanent part-time positions, so they do require somebody with some unique skills as far as wanting to approach doors and collect data, and also specific availability. A lot of our respondents are mostly available in evenings and weekends, so that kind of schedule is conducive to being a successful field representative. But these positions that we are permanent positions that we're always trying to fill. And we have a Connect With Us slide here that gives all of our information for all of the various social media platforms and how you can get in touch with us. Having a little bit of comedy of errors here with our on our technical side here.
Government tech.
Is that our last slide? I'm not sure if that was our last. Ramel, I'm not sure if that's our last slide or not. It's kind of a blank on our end.
Jay, yes, we can see it on our side.
Okay.
Maybe on the census side that you might not be able to see, but we can definitely see the questions and contact information on here.
Okay.
Oh, perfect.
Fantastic. Okay. Okay, so I think that I'll turn it back over to Claire, or turn it back over to Ramel to, I don't know if there's questions or.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Claire and Jay, for that excellent presentation. I definitely learned a lot more than I expected from the census. Thank you for a great presentation, and just wanted to turn it over to the Q&A portion. We received quite a number of questions from our EnVision Center staff as well as HUD staff. So I will take the first one and read that off for you all. So the first question is, if a person receives SNAP or TANF benefits, will that income count as household income? Or will count towards our household income?
Yeah. That's amazing.
So I know I'm putting you on the spot there.
Yeah, so I mean, the census, we don't collect information about their income at all. If that's the thrust of that question. There are no income questions on the census.
For the so I think this is for the job portion of it. Will the income that's generated by the temporary job count towards those benefits that they're getting?
Oh, well, we do have information about that on the website. I know there are different organizations that we have agreements with for waiving our income, but I don't know about those programs specifically.
Can we get back to you on that?
Okay, so we'll just follow up with the EnVision Center staff. Okay, actually we have some input here from one of our HUD staff members in headquarters.
Hi, good afternoon. So I can't speak to the SNAP and TANF benefits, but I can speak to for those who are residing in public housing. So we issued our leadership from our Assistant Secretary of Public Housing issued, I believe in 2017, that as a temporary census worker, that will not count against you. We have that information, and we'll circulate it with our EnVision Center site so you have that memo. It was sent out to all public housing directors, but I also recognize that was about a year or 2 years ago, so you might need to resurface it in your archives, but thank you.